What's up, gang? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have an enormous episode of Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single campaign ending this week. That's right, every single campaign, except for this week, because we have a lot of games to cover. Maybe our longest episode ever, I'm not sure. We'll see when we get to the end. And if I didn't cut some for time, well, we never would have made it out of this YouTube video alive. And so I cut a few, and it was completely random, and I just happened to cut all of the good ones. So all we're left with are funny card games, two-player head-to-head duels.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Oh gosh, why did I do that? And a $2,500 pledge for something called Oil Rub? I don't know.
My biscuit. That sounds like something that's right up my alley.
God, please, no.
Let me
Please.
just go get my little
No.
wallet.
I have made a huge mistake. Now, Slippery Jim aside, whose voice is like a stranger rubbing butter on you. For those of you who are new, and everyone actually, I am sincerely sorry that Slippery Jim exists, and like a glitter bomb will pop up now at the most inopportune of moments.
Whoopsie daisy. I love me some glitter.
Oh, come on. We can't. But anyway, I like to take a look at games leaving Kickstarter for the week, because there are quite a few out there, and this way you get to see how many stretch goals were unlocked, the general overview of the campaign, and that way we get a wide swath of coverage, not just those who have the marketing budget to reach out to people. And plus, nobody really reaches out to me anyway, so maybe because I keep telling people not to get games. But also this way, you don't need to worry about the rest of what's out there. Just worry about this week and let future you handle the rest. It's that person's problem. So, we've got a lot. Let's blaze through this. Just blaze being blaze. I promise there is no time for any more jokes, and you won't hear any more from me. Now, on to the first one. We have Dungeons of Draggmar. And the art here is really cool, but this is just, it's just a confusing mess of a campaign page. Not the worst we've seen, but certainly not the best. I looked at this for 30 minutes trying to figure out if it was cooperative or competitive. Their how to play video just shows what looks to be a portion of a solo play. You're going to enter a dungeon, draw a bunch of monster cards, you have a bunch of heroes, and fight the monsters until they're dead, or until you are. And depending how far you get along in the dungeon, you're going to get fame points. If you defeat the boss of the dungeon, you get even more fame points. And then you go back to town and you can use those fame points to get more heroes and better items and pursue different dungeons. Premise sounds great, but it's not a co-op because everybody does their separate dungeon at once, but it's not really that interactive because everybody just does their own separate dungeon at once. So it seems like you're all just getting together, saying, yeah, we're gonna go on an adventure, and then just sitting and playing your own little dungeon until you come back to the main area where I guess you can compete over who gets to hire what heroes that are up, and also who gets to hire which items that are up, which I like quite a lot that it is specifically you get to hire items as well. They are sentient beings. They will not go with you unless you give them the right price and sweet talk them a little bit too. So you keep going through these dungeons on a seemingly endless journey until, who knows, it doesn't say on the campaign page, and there isn't a rule book, or at least not one that I saw. You go until probably a certain number of points, or probably a certain number of dungeons. I guess that would make sense, right? I think the possibilities are here. There's a portion where they say, oh, or trick people into working with you. So does that mean you can go into a dungeon together and fight the big bad boss and both get fame points? So you can have those mini cooperative team-ups and then you go off on your own to try to get more powers? That sounds like it could be very interesting. I just wish I knew if that were the game or not. Because the game I'm creating in my head, it sounds interesting. The game that is here might be that. It also might not be. So tell me anything else about this game. That would be fantastic. If any of you know what the heck's going on, please put a comment in the comments below. Everybody would appreciate it. This does not bode well for the week, but don't worry, we've got 17 other chances. Or maybe it's that amount until I inevitably cut them all and replace them with more Slippery Jim segments, and nobody wants that. I certainly do not. I thought it was going to pop up there. Oh, this is going to get into an endless cycle. Let's move on. If you're interested, that is Wednesday at 9:59 a.m. Now, next up, we have Kermit the Frog's favorite board game of all time. That's right, it's Verdant. Just because he's green, that's why. And if you ever wanted to have the beautiful, calming, soothing presence of nature around your house, but everything you touch turns to ash, well, don't worry, Verdant's got you covered. The gameplay is pretty simple. You start with a room in your house and a plant right next to each other. And then you're going to build a 5x3 grid, one card at a time, taking either a plant or a room from the market and an additional token that can help boost your plants or boost the appeal of your room. You're going to place this card on the grid and rinse and repeat till everyone's created a 5x3. Then the person with the most points, the most verdant plants, wins. Create rooms from your fingertips, exploding from the earth and providing your plants with the exact right lighting condition that they desperately need to get flourished and be potted. Because yes, only a healthy plant gets potted. And if you're not verdant enough to go into that pot, well, you deserve to sit there on the floor with your roots all splayed out. The indecency. You sit there, spider plant, and think about what you've done. Grow for me. Honestly, it looks pretty decent. It's doing incredibly well, and if you're a fan of either Calico or Cascadia, you'll probably be a fan of this as well, because it's by the same people. It has a similarly calming theme, similar lightweight, and presumably a decent depth of strategy, like Calico and Cascadia. I know Calico can be incredibly brutal, and this one seems a little bit less so, until of course your plant doesn't get enough sunlight and starts turning to other sources of energy to get its fix. Please, stop growing for me. I take it back. Now it's 29 bucks or 36 bucks Canadian, which is pretty decent. But again, that's kind of the price that I would want to pay in the store. But they are subsidizing the shipping a little bit, which is great. It's 14 bucks to ship to Canada, or if you get in on a group pledge, if you can get 6 people together who want Verdant, it averages out to about 7 bucks for shipping. So 7 bucks is not bad, considering Calico, coincidentally, is being sold at my local gaming store for 36 bucks Canadian, and then you'd have to add tax on that, so potentially could even out. And if you back now, you get this extra 16 card plant expansion, which you probably don't need, but sure, throw it in there. It's also on Tabletopia for anyone to check out, which is great. And if you're interested, that finishes up Thursday at 12 a.m., aka Wednesday night. And speaking of games about nature on Tabletopia, next up we have Snapshot, where you'll compete to be the best nature photography. Unfortunately, it's got some incredibly false advertising because no, you don't get to take pictures of Muppets throughout it. So already a huge strike against you, Snapshot. And it's basically push your luck, Pokemon Snap, the board game, as you draw cards from the deck, placing animals into their respective habitats, looking for the ones that you want to take a photo of. And they all have a rating as to how rare or cool they are, how photogenic they are, how good they look in the little hats that I'm sure you're going to try to throw on these wild animals. Why not? And so you can keep on turning up cards, but if you fail to draw a card that is rarer and cooler than the previous ones you drew, you get nothing. Your turn is over. Well, you get a couple little tracking tokens you can use for later on, but you get nothing. Your turn is over, and you can just think about what you've done. Am I going to say that about every game? I might now. If you don't bust, then you get to allocate your 6 dice to whichever ones you want to photograph, and then you're going to have to roll to hit their rare rating. But first, you have to roll into their environment to see if you can even step foot in their environment without spooking them all away. Seems super lightweight, cute push your luck. You also get points if you are the first person to get 3 animals from the same habitat. And you also have your own little private magazine contract that only you can complete, because the magazine finally decided to put its trust in you once and for all for this one assignment, so don't ruin it for yourself, Dolores, or you're not going to Paris. Michael Scott. Now, if you live in the UK, the shipping is reasonable. It's £5. You can contemplate getting this game. If you live anywhere else, you're probably not going to wanna, because it's 35 bucks for the base game, And then for Canadian, it's an additional $24. So no chance I would ever get this for cheapy old me over here. But hey, they're funded, so I'm happy for them. And if you live in the UK, hey, you might want to check it out. That is Thursday at 5:26 a.m. Now, next up from the creators of Dungeon Drop, the inventor of the phrase shop till you drop, and the director of the critically acclaimed film Operation Dumbo Drop, we've got Drop Drive. In space. I hope I really remembered to do something with my voice there in post, or I'd just look silly. Sillier than I normally do. And somebody out there must have been listening when they heard me say that I love games where you just let gravity do all the work for you. Because can you say best setup ever? How do you set up the board? Done. Did it. Just throw everything into a hexagon like the ultimate cage fighters they are, and get your little ships ready to bounce their booties all around the galaxy. And it's pretty simple. You're either going to drop your ship from a certain height, depending on your drop drive rating, and hope that it tumbles into the planet that you want it to deliver these certainly not space-sick passengers to the places that they want it to get to. Or you can use your rocket fuel to chart a path with a little snaky thing and pick up all the stuff you touch along the way. You're going to compete to deliver the most aliens to the most planets that they want it to go to. And I'm sure they could have found a more comfortable journey where the captain wouldn't take detours to just fight pirates for no reason. Well, really, the pirates are going to come fight you. It's your ship. They're just living in it. Now it's $27, which is a lovely price. I was really worried that the base game wasn't going to come with the walls, which would be a colossal failure. But thankfully they have it listed in their prototype rulebook as a component, so I think we can be okay that everyone's gonna get walls to drop their pieces willy-nilly. It's light dexterity fun. I mean, you're kind of just dropping things on a wing and a prayer and hoping that it works out. But for what it is, and for the price point, if you think it looks fun, that's Thursday at 9 a.m. Unfortunately, the shipping, at least to Canada, is outrageous. US, it's $14. Canada, it's $24, almost doubling the price of the game. Nah, I just can't justify it for something that light. But again, cool to know about, to pick up at some point in time. That's one of the reasons why I like doing this whole thing as well, because I know I'm not going to back many games, but there are a lot of games that I would definitely try down the road. And now we've all gotten a chance to take a look at them so that if someone mentions it later on, you have the knowledge. Next, hold on to your spooky season, because Death himself couldn't stop me from talking about this next one, which is the card game called Reap. And you know what Reap does better than any other game? They put the price in their video right at the end. So here's an attaboy for you, Reap. It's fantastic. Great job. This is another pretty simple one. There's going to be 9 cards up each round, and you're going to get your own new specialized Reaper card each round that is hidden behind a screen. So first, you'll put your little Reaper meeple out on a soul that you potentially want to claim, get your Reaper card, which has a special ability, and then you can bid up to 3 skulls on if you want to reap, you want to keep, or you want to sweep. Now, keep is different than reap, and probably should have been reap. Keep means you get to keep the soul card that you're on. Reap means you get to move your little Reaper meeple 1 space per skull that you've put on there. And sweep means you can replace a card with a random card from the deck, potentially foiling your opponent's plans. Because if you bid the most skulls on keep, and you also get to add your little Reaper's specialty, which souls they think are the tastiest, if you have the most points on that and you're standing on that soul, you get that type of soul and any of the same soul that's adjacent to it. Now, the Reaper bonus does have that specialty, which is always going to be way more powerful than any of your skulls could be, so it kind of feels like you're just going to get this card. You're going to say, okay, what does he get me? And you're going to try to go to that spot. But I can see the little tweaks where you could mess up your opponent, and I like blind bidding stuff, so I mean, it's $37 Canadian, $29 US, which on another campaign, $29 US was $36 Canadian, but hey, that's how it works out in this one. That's what you get for trusting Kickstarter, I guess. Also, no quotes as to what shipping will be, so good luck with that one. makes me immediately not interested in getting it. Even before I read the thing where the artist said he took inspiration for this game by all the people who had died during COVID. So drawing death in a funny way was his way of getting back at death. Take that, death! We won! Anyway, if you're interested in that, that is Thursday at 10 a.m. Moving along, we have Beast, which is a hidden movement, one versus all game. And I remember when they posted at Board Game Revolution Facebook community saying, hey, can you check out our campaign video and give us some feedback? And because we want to make sure it tells what the game is. And everybody said, yeah, this is way too long a video before you tell us what your game's even about. And they said, oh, okay, yeah, definitely. Thanks for your feedback. And then they didn't change it at all. At least I got lots of Beast roll for my video now. Because we couldn't possibly cut this picture of a rock smiling in the middle of a waterfall. Look how happy he is, taking a little bath. Integral to understanding what the game's about. That aside, this is our second most funded campaign of the week. And it looks like a really nice addition to the hidden movement one versus all genre. If you're a Fury of Scotland Dracula fan, which is different than being a fan of a furry Scott Bakula, I imagine that you will be a fan of this one as well. So if you're the hunters, you have to find and kill the beast. If you're the beast, well, you gotta kill the hunters and all their stupid little settlements and settlers that they've popped up in your land. I mean, really, the beast was there first. Seems pretty clear we all know whose side we should be on. Hashtag Team Beast. What is a neat mechanic is that you all get to draft cards that you want to use in the round, but they're dual purpose. So there's a point for the hunters and a thing for the beast. So as the hunters, you want to set up your own combos, but you also don't want to leave that really valuable ability for the beast either. So the beast will attack, reveal itself, and then disappear again into the shadows, and you as the hunters have to go and try to track down its trail and ultimately find it and kill it. And then during the night phase, you get to use extra energy. They're called grudges, but they're just basically energy that you accrue over the day, and you can use that to set up the following day. Plus, each beast has a different type. It can do special effects depending on what terrain it's on, so that also gives the beast an advantage and makes the hunters think, okay, the beast will probably be attacking from these points, unless the beast pulls a fast one on you. There's also a mini map for the beast to keep track of their own movements, which I think is huge because I know a lot of people who hate hidden movement games because they can't visualize where they are or where they've been, and I think this is going to make that so much more accessible. Now it's $59 US, $74 Canadian, plus shipping. The retail version will be $65 US. So you're saving $6, but you also have to add in the shipping. I'm inclined to wait because it doesn't look like the stretch goals are exclusive. I don't know how wide a retail release this will have, so take that with a grain of salt. But it does look pretty fun. Anyway, if you're interested in that, that is Thursday at 11 a.m. Our next one, Tales from the Red Dragon Inn, is also doing incredibly well. Oftentimes there are so many campaigns, at least the ones that I cover, because I cover basically them all, you see very small funding goals. And this week, everything is like funded 40K or more, other than Snapshot so far. Sorry, Snapshot. And this one is almost 10 times that, sitting at just over $390,000 Canadian. And it's basically cartoony Gloomhaven with around the same price point, $90 US, $112 Canadian. Except with this one, you'll have a bunch of different abilities for your heroes on cards. No, okay, that's the same. But on these abilities, if you use them, you're gonna have to put these cooldown markers on them, and each ability has a certain cooldown length. So you have to wait until all those turn markers have been removed before you can use those specific abilities again. And the attacks of monsters will be random. They'll either be one or two things. You roll a dice for those monsters at the beginning, and you see, oh, is it gonna be this, or is it gonna be that? Kind of reminds me of Kabbalah for that regard, which, side tangent, I think they're going to probably cancel and then reassess. So if you are interested in Kabbalah, make sure you throw your pledge in now, just so you're able to get the updates when they inevitably do relaunch. Anyway, for this one, the initiative of the round is determined by throwing everybody's initiative chips into a bag, and you're going to draw them out one by one. It's the same as Aeon's End if you had a deck and shuffling them, however you want to do it. Initiative will be random. Now for this one, there's no current rule book, which I hate, or not one that I've seen, but they do have a couple of playthrough videos up that are pretty decent and give you a sense of what it feels like. And this is it's a tricky one to assess, because if you have Gloomhaven, well, you probably have Frosthaven on the way if you liked it, or you probably haven't finished Gloomhaven. So if that's the case, do you really need another dungeon crawl? And if you like Red Dragon Inn, which is the IP that this is based off of, it's kind of a lighter weight game, well, hey, you get access now to all your favorite characters in this campaign mode. But this one looks like a little bit more of an investment than previously. But hey, people seem to like it. A lot of people are on board for this one. I think the art actually detracts from the game for me for this one. It feels like a weird juxtaposition of this cartoony style, but I think there's going to be a little bit more strategy than what the cartoony elements kind of suggest. The sort of scratched together style. I don't know. It's too expensive for me to just take a gamble on, but check it out if you want. That's at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Now, next up, we have Don't Go In There by the same people who brought you Canvas. Unfortunately, this box is not one that you're going to want to hang on your wall, but if you're lucky, you might not find it under your bed late at night, moved from your shelf. You play as one of 5 idiot children who decided it would be fun to go meddling around the local haunted house during spooky season. And so, of course, you've been cursed. Really, it just cursed the bejesus out of you. And now, in order to make it out of here alive, you have to get rid of these curses, or at least have less curses than everybody else around the table. Because the person who has the fewest curses at the end of this game will learn to live with themselves. Somebody's got to let me know what that feels like. And will be allowed to leave the house, and the rest of the children presumably get eaten by a balloon.
You have invoked the curse.
That's just Yoda.
Float, float, float. Georgie. Hiya, Georgie.
It's still Yoda. I used to be able to do it.
Hiya, Georgie. Float, 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 float.
It's still Yoda. Anyway, on your turn, you place one of your little 5 meeples in a room, and then that room gets triggered when there are 3 meeples in it. Once there are 3 meeples in there, it gets resolved. The person who ventured furthest into the dark gets first choice of the cards, which is great because you want to make these sort of sets that at the end you can flip them over and cancel their curses out. But the further you go into the dark, the more chances you have of being possessed by ghosts, of course. So you roll these dice, and you have to take dice equal to how far you ventured into the spookiness and see how many ghosts decide to have their way with your soul this time. Anyway, like I said, at the end you get to cancel out sets that you've made. The person who has accrued the most ghosts gets completely boned, dragged down to hell by all the cholera ghosts in existence. You get real cursed. And then you see who has the fewest curses, and you win. If you can call it a win. You're still cursed. They don't go away. You have to live with yourself every day. You sit there and think about what you've done. There's the third one. Anyway, it's $25 for the retail edition, or $35 for the deluxe edition, where you get 5 additional sets. You start with 12, you mix in 6, so this would give you 18. Gives you a little bit of extra variability. Meh, I don't know if you'd need it. Shipping isn't too bad. It's $13 to get it to Canada. It's still, I'm so cheap. It's still a little expensive for me, but if you go in on a group buy, hey, this might be a good one to have a nice little push your luck game. Anyway, if you're interested, that is Friday at 12:59 a.m., aka Thursday night. Ooh. Now, next up, we have the Roll Camera reprint and the B-movie expansion. Not the B-movie with Jerry Seinfeld, but like a classification of a B-movie. It's not an A-list title. You know what I'm saying. It's on the screen. It's still Seinfeld. And honestly, this campaign is really just for people who loved the original Roll Camera, but if you hadn't heard of it till now, it's a cooperative game where you roll dice, assign those dice to different spots on the film set where things need to be getting done, and basically hope that your movie doesn't suck and that you can get 5 scenes together to create a great movie. As we know, all great movies have 5 scenes. That's why Paul Blart 3, Honey, I Shrunk the Blarts, is such a modern masterpiece. They could have done it in 1 take. They chose 5. And so the B-movie expansion, it really just gives you more of everything, and also adds genre requirements and little genre tokens so you can put little cowboy hats on the people in your movie. Because of course, why wouldn't you want that? I think you certainly don't need to jump in with both, but what the heck do I know, because only 69 people have chosen just the base game, and 1,100 people have chosen both the base and the expansion. So it must be doing significantly better than its 3,000 or something rating that it has on BGG represents. It looks pretty light and fun, honestly, although I hear it's quite tough. It's got a great insert, and that insert from the base game will hold the expansion, which is a huge plus. And you get a funny, but also completely useless addition to your box with a little film clapper on it. You can tell the theme is so incredibly important to this game, and it does look fun. It's 62 bucks Canadian for the base game, or 100 bucks for the base game and the expansion, and that's before shipping, so you know what I'm gonna say. But hey, make up your own mind. And you have until Friday at 1 a.m. to decide. Also Thursday night. Ooh, movies. I don't know. Now, if the competitive wildlife photography game wasn't enough for you with Snapshot, don't worry, because Birdwatcher is here to fill that void, where you compete specifically not to snap any sorts of wildlife, but the cream of the crop of all wildlife, birds of paradise. And I have to say, I don't know if you know how thrilled I am that it is specifically birds of paradise, because birds of paradise, I think, are the funniest animals in existence. Definitely the funniest birds. Go watch Our Planet on Netflix just for the birds of paradise section. You can see all of their incredibly elaborate mating dances. Honestly, theme alone, it's 10 out of 10. You're gonna take turns making bird calls, hoping to entice these birds into your bird tree so that you can better take a photograph of them. But don't worry, if your opponent took the bird that you wanted to snap, well, you can use your zoom lens, but like in a camera, it's just a picture. You can use your zoom lens to take a photo of that one as well and snipe them out of your opponent's grasp. You can also peek into the jungle and run into the jungle, scaring out all the beautiful birds into a nice little clearing where you are more able to whistle them to your lovely tree. This is the bird watching themed game to introduce to your parents, because I can guarantee you wingspan sometimes is very hard to grasp. I don't know why, but it is sometimes very hard to get people to understand. This one, a lot simpler, and it also has birds. So it's 39 bucks US or $49 Canadian, and honestly, you can tell. It's just by the theme. I am close here. US shipping is 12 bucks, so seems reasonable. Canadian shipping's 18 bucks. That bumps it into that $75 range-ish for me. It's just a bit too pricey, but maybe they could entice me with their mating call. Who knows? Anyway, if you're interested, that's Friday at 8 p.m. Now, next up, this isn't a board game, but it is the board gaming equivalent to the critically acclaimed MTV show, Pimp My Ride. And that is, of course, top shelf tokens. I mean, I think these are way too expensive. It's $50 US for a box of these tokens, for a bunch of better tokens than the ones that came in your stupid little retail copy of the game, that you also have to pull out with the game. So it makes the setup longer if you want to use them for a variety of games instead of just committing it to one specific game. But all that being said, there's a reason people upgrade tokens, and it's just because it makes it look good. I'd much rather take that $50 US and spend it on a game rather than tokens. But hey, if you're made of money, well, one, make sure you take an umbrella outside wherever you go so that your skin doesn't get wet. Two, does that mean your heart is also made of money? Are you completely made of money? How are you a sentient being? And three, oh God, does that mean when you have to pay for things, you're literally chopping off your own arm in order to finance these purchases? If you're made of money, no, please. It's not worth it. Don't buy these. Come to me so that I can save you from your roommates who are inevitably going to break down your door and rip you to shreds to finance their magic card addiction. Oh my lord, that took a turn. So if you are made of money, please contact a doctor or something. Or take me up on my invitation. I will limit my use of candles whenever you're in the house. But if you have a lot of money, then perhaps these tokens might be something you'd be interested in. I mean, if you like metal coins, this is probably for you. You should be getting packs and packs of these. Definitely better than metal coins because they're different shapes. Little pumpkins, little meat. Top shelf tokens, they exist. The deadline for that is Friday at 9 p.m. Let's move on. Et maintenant, on tourne à la prochaine jeu, Fédération. Et si tu parles français, this is one of the most enthusiastic videos I have ever seen. It honestly tickles me to such a degree. But if you don't speak French, well, you might not find it as charming as I did, but you'll probably still find it pretty charming. Because I've lost a lot of my French since I was in high school, as I'm sure you could tell with that horrendous accent just previously. Either way, maybe you still will find the game as charming as I do because I think it honestly looks great. The main mechanic that they're pushing are these double-sided workers. So basically on your turn, where it's worker placement, you can put out a worker on a spot and do that action, but you also get to choose if that worker is going to vote in the Senate. So it's voting on a specific bill to be passed that round, or if that worker is going to contribute towards a financial project of a specific race of aliens. There's 5 different types of aliens around the table. And so if you're financing the project, you want to make sure that it gets to the top and you're in good with these aliens at the end. That will reward you with points. Versus the voting in the Senate, these laws are really just going to be focused around getting points now. So you have to decide if you're going to go for that long-term strategy or that short-term gain. In addition, each space you go to, and there's one on each side of the Senate, those are the 2 sides that are going to be voting between the 2 different laws, it does something different. There are 5 alien races, all with their own unique things to them. The mining race will get you more resources. The erudite race will get you scholars who will give you abilities. Different things for each track, so you're also trying to balance out which tracks do you specialize in? Do you go for a little bit of everything? Which aliens do you piss off and which ones do you help? It's Mass Effect, the board game. Mass Effect, the Euro. So there are a lot of moving parts, but it's something that does seem really slick. And it also kind of pumped me up this week, to be honest, as I was working my way through these campaigns and reading through all the rules and trying to parse things together. And I was getting a little tired and almost ready to take a break. And I thought, just one more. And it reinvigorated me. So it looks really neat. Unfortunately, they're only offering a deluxe version. They say in the stretch goal, this one's for the deluxe version only, but they're only offering the deluxe version. And that comes to around $108 Canadian before shipping, which is just too expensive for me. If it was 60, 70-ish, honestly, I might back it. It's a euro, so it reminds me of, well, every other euro in general. But the decisions seem tense. It seems brain-burny without being brain-burny. Just a lot of possible options and a lot of different things to be able to explore. So if you're a fan of Euros, move over Voidfall. This might be one worth checking out. It seems really, really simple in execution, but there are a ton of moving parts. So it's not necessarily a hugely complex one like Voidfall, but it seems straightforward and yet still is going to be a lot to grasp. I really like Rahdo's run through on this one. The first 5 minutes give you a really nice sense of the game and how the game will be played and if it's going to be right for you. I really should start doing that with my reviews. Just set up and play the first few turns, add those as supplementary videos. Let me know if that's something you think I should do, and I'm probably going to do it. Anyway, if you're interested in that, that is Saturday at 2 p.m. Now next up we have another great theme. You're at a bar. It's a dog-friendly bar, and your goal is to run around the bar petting as many dogs as you possibly can without the bar owner throwing you out. That is hair of the dog, because it's an exclusive bar. The bartender always has their watchful little eyes on you. And if you're not drinking, well, no petting for you. And honestly, this is how you do your Kickstarter videos. I'm gonna make this the whole B-roll. I'm not gonna show you anything about the game. Fantastic. But what's also fun about this one is that each action takes 1 sip of drink. And if you run out of drink, well, then you get shamed by the bartender, who obviously wants you to keep drinking at their bar. And if you get shamed, that of course will count negatively for you at the end of the game. So each dog can be pet 3 times before they get tired and they want to go home. Understandably, because they're dogs at a bar, and there's only so many times they can get their fur tousled by 7-drink Sally over there. You're a good little man. Also, as you're running around the board, if you're in the same space as another player, you can trade information about what the dog's like, because each dog, when they get antsy, they need a specific thing. You can also trade items freely, or you can spend an action to force them to make this trade. And then they can spend an action to block you. And you can spend the action to force it, and it goes back and forth until somebody runs out of drink, or you just come to an agreement so you don't kamikaze each other while Braden gets to run around the bar petting dogs to his heart's content. Now it's $35 US or $44 Canadian, but I just wish they had their shipping estimate up on the page. I need to know these estimates. Some part of it says, yeah, some of the shipping's factored in, but is that just the freight shipping, getting it to distribution centers? I don't know, and since I don't know, there's no way I'm going to contemplate backing it. It just doesn't make any sense, especially in this time of shipping, which is too bad because it does look good, looks kind of cute and fun, but again, no way I would contemplate getting it without knowing a firm shipping estimate, or at least a range. But if you are interested, that is Sunday at 4 p.m. Halloween. And moving along, our next one also finishes on Halloween. It's a $10 tile-laying head-to-head battle micro Medusa, where one player plays the Medusa and the other plays the micro, the hero. So basically the Medusa is trying to connect 3 snake mouths so she can gobble, gobble, gobble up that sweet little champion, and the champion is trying to stop her from getting out of control. You draft some tiles at the beginning of the round, and then it's really just about out-bluffing your opponent, because every single thing has a counter tile that needs to be played. What I do love is they're shipping it in an envelope. So it's gonna be super small, it's gonna be $3 shipping to the US, $6 shipping anywhere internationally. That's what I like to see, Micro Medusa. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. Check it out if you want. That's Sunday at 5 p.m. And oh boy, we're into the biggest of the week. Maybe you knew it was coming. It's Mythwind, which has raised over $1 million, over $1 million Canadian. Thank goodness, because I already did 2 5 reasons you shouldn't back last week, and I want to start doing some things where I tell you to get games. I like games, I swear. I swear I do. I don't always want to be the voice of reason. I want to be impulsive. Yeah, that's where following your impulses gets you. Egg all over my face. Yeah, that's what I get for following my impulses. No, don't even say it. Now, my favorite part about Mythwind is if you look on its BGG listing, it says it plays anywhere from 10 minutes a session to 999 minutes. Seriously? That's 166 hours. That's almost 7 full days without sleep of playing Mythwind. Get over yourself, Mythwind. That isn't a reasonable playtime. But that is because it is open-ended, meaning there's no end to the game. Meaning you could presumably play forever, or I guess until you get bored. It's basically Animal Crossing the board game, but I don't see no plucky figure in here, so obviously inferior. Although to be fair, it does make that 7 days without sleep significantly easier to believe. But I would suggest if you are interested in Mythwind, you should scroll, keep scrolling, scroll down to their section called How Do I Win? And When Does This Game End? And the answers are basically, hey, you win by having fun, and the game ends never. It even says in here that it is attempting to replicate the experiences of Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon, and so that's your bar. I mean, for me, this immediately makes me have zero interest in paying the $85 US plus shipping for this never-ending nightmare. It's just because I don't have any interest at all in those types of games. But if you are interested, with each new character, they've basically created a new game to play. The farmer is a polyomino game as he grows his crops. The merchant is, well, a merchant. They're focusing on buying and selling. The crafter is bag building. The woodsman is hand management. And apparently there is a gigantic untapped market for this, judging by its success. And hey, the game trays look great, which is going to be so important for this type of thing because it needs to be when you pull it out of the box, you need to almost be in the exact same state as you were when you left it. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just turn on your Animal Crossing game? Especially with that new expansion that's coming out on November 5th. I mean, personally, I don't think this looks good at all. But that's just because it's my taste, right? I think the production quality looks great. So if you like those sorts of things, definitely look into it more. My guess is that you'd still just want to play Harvest Moon, but my guess is clearly wrong, judging by the over $1 million Canadian that this one has raised. I'm really glad it didn't break that 1 million US threshold. I would not have had 5 reasons. It would have just been me saying, it never ends. It never ends. It's pointless. It never ends. There's no plucky. Anyway, if you are interested, that's Sunday at 10 p.m. And finally, coming off the back of that behemoth, we have 3 final games, all of which aren't funding. And the first one we have is Terra Eternity, which we don't have anymore because it's now been canceled. That's just me telling you about it in case you'd heard of it and were interested. Well, you're out of luck. Don't worry about looking into it. Don't waste your time. It might come back because it was close. And then for our next 2, I don't think either of which will fund, which is too bad because one looks pretty decent and the other one looks fantastic for completely different reasons, which we'll get to. But first we have a little trick-taking game called Trolldillema, and this one is at like 10% of its funding, if that. It's not going to fund. I'm only telling you about it because I think mechanically there's something there, and if you wanted to jump on for the relaunch and get the notifications about the updates, well, that's probably the only way you're going to hear about it if they do relaunch because the interest has been so low. So in this one, basically you're a bunch of bridge trolls, which is always a good place to start off, and you're competing to see who can steal the most gold from villagers crossing your bridge. Now the bravest villagers, they're always flipped up and they're ordered by their amount of courage that they have. The bravest villagers will travel to the bridge with the most skulls on it because they're like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, I can handle it. But also before they do, you can throw any skulls that you've made from murdering the previous villagers at any of the trolls around the table. So you can say, no, go to that troll. Maybe making deals with people to say, hey, let's send the knights who will just chop a troll's arm off or something and won't give you gold. Let's send them all to that bridge, and then I'll wait for the lucrative, dumb nobles to come to mine. But everybody's got to throw their skull at each other at the same time. So I think that mechanic itself, it intrigues me. Now it's 25 bucks Canadian, which I think it's a little too high. Was it 15? 100%. I'd be in. I'd be backing it. I also do worry that it would become too predictable. But it's a bit more of a push your luck in the sense that, yeah, you want to load up on those skulls so you get those brave villagers who have the coins, but you don't want to be around when the knights come and they'll take like half of your coins or something. Anyway, that finishes up Monday, November 1st at 6 a.m. Holy jeez, we're almost into November. Time flies when you're having fun with your pals on the YouTubes. And finally, to finish it up, we have the game that you all have been waiting for. And that, of course, is Coyote Petersen's Wild Adventure. And I was really excited to learn about Coyote Petersen. I actually thought he was going to be somebody really wild and crazy, and he is, kind of. He's got a YouTube channel with 19.6 million people, and 106 of those people have decided that they want to back the board game. And the rest of the 19.6 million, well, I think they're just there to watch Coyote Petersen stick his head in a box of spiders. Look away if you don't want to see it. It's horrifying. I can't believe I watched it, and now I'm adding it in post. That's all we're going to see about it. We're done. Welcome back. And I can only assume that this isn't a good game. That's just what I have to assume. Although I did catch in the video that there is a card that says, move Coyote's hat. So I really don't know what that means. If that's a good or a bad thing. Have to be a good thing. It's Coyote's hat. So I am willing to retract the statement that it is probably not a good game and say that it is most likely now an incredible game where you can move his hat all around the wilderness. I wasn't able to open the rulebooks because when I clicked on a link it said, hey, this is basically a virus. Do you still want to open this? And I said, not today. So Coyote family, maybe that's why nobody is interested in your game, because you aren't telling us anything about it. And I guarantee you, Coyote himself has probably never played this game either. But hey, Coyote, if you're watching, let's get together, play a little bit. We can play the game, You can shout me out to your 19.6 million followers. I'll put my head in a box. No, I will absolutely not do that. Not for all the money in the world. Not for a human man made out of money. Because there'd be that whole attachment thing. I couldn't rip him to shreds. I couldn't do that to old Marty. Marty the money man. Honestly, I'm sorry. I thought this section would be funnier. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, it's just a guy in a hat. So thanks for sticking with me. And that's it. That's it. We made it through the week. Blazed through it, it felt like. Every week, I do a pick for me and a pick for you. Pick for me is always something that I am particularly interested in, and then pick for you is if you had all the money in the world and you wanted to treat yourself to a board game and you only could select from the selection that we just talked about, what do I think looks good? So first off, for the pick for me, and I'm not going to get this one because it's too expensive. It really got me excited in a way that no other game on this list did, and that of course is Fédération. I probably sound so pretentious calling it Fédération, just call it Federation, because I'm speaking English. I don't want to be one of those people who constantly says Budapest. That's how it's pronounced. Shout out to my brother. We'll see if he sees it. But yeah, Fédération, I can't stop. I want to call it Fédération. It looks great. There's an element to it that seems a little bit overwhelming, but there's something about it. It's really hard for me to describe, which is bad because that's literally my job, describing it to all of you. But the complexity and the depth that I can see happening with this game, the amount of choices that you get to make on your turn, it feels like it will be fulfilling. No matter what you do, you're always going to get something, and you're always going to be moving towards grabbing more points, and you can implement those long-term plans or those short-term plans and block other people. It seems like there are a lot of possibilities with this one, a bunch of pieces. It seems great. If you're a fan of Euros and you got the money to burn, look into it. I really do think this is, mechanically, it's going to be really interesting. So that's my personal pick. Fédération. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to play it, but for this brief week thinking about it, it feels pretty good. And finally, my pick for you would be, I haven't figured it out yet. There are quite a few contenders, honestly. I'm debating between 4, Beast, Verdant, Hair of the Dog, and Birdwatcher. I want to give the nod to the lesser funded campaigns. I always kind of like doing that. If it's 50-50, I'll give the nod to one. Birdwatcher does seem pretty good. I think for my official pick for you, I'm going to have to go with Beast. It looks fun. Looks like something I would be interested in playing. I like the size of the board. There's different sizes depending on the player count. Although I feel like this one's going to play better at more player counts, the more hunters you have trying to solve it. I could be wrong. I don't know. I've never played it. But it looks pretty solid. They've raised enough money as well that I think they've been able to get a lot of feedback and go for some of those upgrades. The little custom meeples I'm sure will be fun. It does look really good. Again, it's not something that I'm going to get just after the shipping, but that is for sure one that I'll be keeping my eyes on. See if I can get it on the secondhand market at some point in time. And I think if you were to buy just one game, that feels like a solid enough game that a lot of people would be excited for it. Unless you hate hidden movement, then don't get it. But I think that's it. My official pick of the week for you would be Beast. So that's it. Also, tonight, Monday the 25th, if you're interested, I'm jumping on this Codenames comedy show on Twitch with Alex from Board Game Co. I mean, it's just going to be us playing Codenames with some other people. It's Codenames. What do you expect is going to happen? But we're going to make it as fun as possible. Codenames are fun. So join if you want. I'll put the link to that in the description as well. It's through Tim Riel's Twitch. Link is in the description. And that is tonight at 8 p.m. If you want to drop by, heckle us. That is exactly what this show is for. And I think it will encourage plenty of heckling. And honestly, you're not going to heckle us because we're going to demolish the other team. You heard it here first. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you're backing, what you're interested in. This was a huge one. If anything piqued your interest, please let me know. I'm really curious to see what everybody's doing. Is there one that I missed? Is there one that I caught that you were hoping I would talk about? also mention that, I'm happy to write my thoughts in a comment as well, because I definitely looked at them all and then cut a few, mostly just for the time. But that's it. Thank you so much for sticking through it, even with all the appearances from Slippery Jim. I don't know how he made so many cameos this week and no other character did, but you'd think Megan Bacon would have popped up with all the spooky season happening around here.
Spooky season, baby!
There she is. Enough of this. You've got better things to do with your day. I hope you have a wonderful one. Once again, my name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but I do know this won't be the last time you see Slippery Jim. And please never make me put my head in a box of spiders. I'm in your hands. I'll see you in the next one.